Well, there you have it. Good morning. That was Susie's Homestay on YouTube, just sharing, her experience as a parent and doing homeschooling. And of course, she's using that curriculum. There's a curriculum she actually talked about that she has specified that she's using. Earlier on, the advocates also made it very clear that homeschooling is not necessarily illegal. It's just a matter of what curriculum you're using and that you're doing it in a proper way. And if you're worried about the transition, still the curriculum. And of course, Elizabeth is here, and she was here earlier on, but I'm going to, for the sake of the new viewer, allow her to still walk with us step by step. Into the interview, we will, of course, talk about the concerns you raised and things you felt we did not cover in detail in regards to homeschooling. As I mentioned earlier as well, I'll be joined by a successful musician, and of course is working with different artists who also went through homeschooling. But from what I gather, he cleared this long time ago. He finished his education in 2012, but still we want to know how it was for him, what advantages homeschooling had in his career today, and him being molded as a person through homeschooling. In just but a bit, his name is Tugi Mlamba. So we're so glad to have you guys on board. He'll talk to us about every other thing that you want to know. So, Teacher Elizabeth, I'm not sure how to refer to you. I don't know if I should call you teacher, because you've been here on Elimu Live as well. A lot of us know you as Teacher Elizabeth, but
yes.
Please introduce yourself again to the viewer.
Okay. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Ngaso Machoka. I am a teacher by profession. I teach at Premier Academy. I'm a homeroom tutor. Mm-hmm. I also do homeschool my children, and I'm also a consultant. Mm-hmm. I also help setting up classrooms, homeschool classrooms. Oh, yes, I do. I think, is that all?
Yeah, I think, and if they want to know more, there is something on YouTube, and there is a previous link last Wednesday if she's missed out something about her introduction. I'm going to come to, of course, our success story, who's on standby. You saw him on Zoom, and I want him to just introduce himself officially to you so you can also understand and know him at his level. So welcome so much. Are you there on standby, Otungi? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ankey, I'm here. Please call me Tugi. All my friends call me Tugi. Yes, my full name is Tugi Mlamba, but my friends call me Tugi. I'm a singer, songwriter, music producer, and music consultant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice. So what people are getting right now is somebody who has fully gone through the education system. He went through homeschooling, cleared in 2012, if I got that correctly. Now you all want to know how the journey was, how it is now working with the society, and really he's working with some really big names, which we will of course ask him later on how this is going. He's laughing. But before that, let's talk about what Elizabeth has to say. Last time we talked about homeschooling, and a lot of people have misinterpreted or have this imagination of what homeschooling is.
Yes.
Some people just, of course, get it correctly by saying homeschooling is at home, full stop.
Yes.
Tell us more about it, just for the person who's watching this morning.
All right. So some of the misconceptions I got was having homeschooling children denies their social rights. Then you cannot assess them. Homeschooling, of course, you addressed that in the morning, is illegal. And the thing that came out mostly was we are raising weird children who will not know how to interact with other children.
Cool kids.
Yes, the cool kids, and then of course it's only for the rich, and those are just misconceptions. And probably I can take you through like a few things on homeschooling. Number one, as they had mentioned, picking a curriculum is important. Like in Kenya, as I mentioned before, we are doing the CBC. Of course, we still have the 844, which is being phased out. Pole. Yeah, so the students, the homeschooling students who are doing the 844 are okay because there's private candidates registration. Okay. But the CBC has not opened up its doors to homeschoolers to register for private candidates.
Right.
However, there are institutions that are coming up and registering homeschooled children to register with their institutions. And then you can homeschool your children, get materials from them.
Okay.
And then it also depends with the level at which your child is at. So we have the early years learning, the kindergarten. In the kindergarten, you can get curriculums, so many of them on the internet. We have
Right.
free curriculums, and we also have the paid.
That's the early childhood. That's
the
like
early
really
childhood,
basic.
yeah.
Okay.
And for me, what I believe in is once a foundation of a building is firm, then you're assured the structure, the whole structure will be okay. So when you're starting your education as a young child, it's like a clean slate. Like when an artist is painting on a clean slate, it gives them an easier time. So when your child is at their early years learning, it's important for you, if you can, it's so important for you to ensure that you're giving your child the best.
All right.
And I am sorry to say this, but most of the schools in Kenya are not at that standard. They're not providing the standard. So the children who are being homeschooled stand a chance. They stand a chance to get the best because number one, you can base your education, the education you're providing to that child, on your values, on the values that you as a parent believe in.
Okay.
Like for myself, being a Christian, I want to instill Christian values in my children.
All right.
Yeah.
And you feel like the Kenyan education system wouldn't do that at the standard that you want?
Or the schools that provide such standards are too expensive.
They are too
expensive.
All right, just
Yes.
hold it there for me for a bit, and I want to engage Tugi to just understand what his experience was, because now we've had a lot of curricular changes.
Yes.
He mentioned O levels for his case, and I just want to know his experience. Which curriculum did his parents use, and how's the transition for him? Tugi, if you can hear me.
Yes. So, I mean, wow, I really, I think we had the same kind of parents as my dear friend in studio as well, because my parents also wanted to raise us up with Christian values. So coming out of preparatory, I went to Hillcrest Prep all the way until around year 8. And then I went to, what happened? We started with a system called Accelerated Christian Education, which was really the foundation of the principle that we carried through to the rest of high school, because again, as she said, it's expensive. And that was the main reason for us stopping that. So I went through Accelerated Christian Education for about 2 years. So that's about I went back to year 7 in American. Accelerated is American system. So we did year 7 to around year 10, and then stopped doing the Accelerated Christian Education, and then just followed through with the O levels IGCSE, but with the same principles, learning principles specifically of Accelerated Christian Education. And these were very key because they really were a student-based learning style that we don't have a teacher, we just had a supervisor.
Okay.
We basically would teach ourselves. So the material would come with reading material and question material. So you are able to learn and teach yourself and even mark for yourself. So the only thing that supervisor would mark is your end of term exams, or end of course exams, to be specific. And then you'd write your goals in the morning. So every morning you wake up and you say, I want to get from here to here in this subject, and from here to here in this subject, which is very, very key. It's actually like what you do in life. So to be able to have that starting to get drilled in us as we're young, this goal set mentality really, really opens the door for you to learn anything and to do anything as long as you can have a goal towards that. So that really is the reason why I was able to get where I have now in music and to be able to do all these things. Because with the with that mentality, you get freedom. You know, I didn't have to study from 8 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
In fact, I would because we grew up on a farm. So I'd be in the farm the most time in the morning, around till around 10, 11. And then from 11 all the way till evening, I would just play guitar. And that's what I love to do. It's my passion.
All right.
And then from evening time, I'd go and now do my schoolwork. So it really, the flexibility of being able to choose what you want to do, when you want to do it, allows you to grow in what you're passionate about. And that was very, very key to where I am now.
Well, thank you so much. That's so detailed, summarized in a very short time. And what we're seeing actually here is a success story. He's done several curricula, but he's saying each of them molded him in some way. And of course, Elizabeth here is going to tell us how that program in that setup in the house, like what is talked about the flexibility and the timings, and how he was able to be a responsible person in that capacity. Also, something I have noticed and heard is about the supervisor. And I read something on my research about the 1-to-1 ratio, which we don't get in institutions of learning, normal setups. You want to comment on the positive, things or advantages of homeschooling so that people can actually understand why you choose homeschooling over the normal setup.
Yeah, so like for my children, we ensure that, we are, beside the faith that we want, the values that we want to instill in our children.
Like he said,
we have also the talent. Like I picked that my children are very musical. We are a musical family. So my daughter is into music. She has good vocals.
Oh, nice.
And so she liked the keyboard. Yeah. So most I would I stand to be corrected. Like the public schools, I don't think we have we have solutions for talents. Like let's say the keyboard.
Even with the CBC right now.
Let me say, like, do we have music clubs like where children are taught piano instruments?
I think there's something like that.
There's something like that, but also again the tutors can be very expensive.
Okay.
So what I did with my children, we have a music teacher. If they're interested in art, we outsource an art teacher.
Okay.
And I know of friends who also have gone to do other talent-based learning, and they're still getting their education, their academics running. So for my daughter, we decided, like, we saw that she had the ability to learn and also follow music, and so we enrolled her in a music class. So she gets time to learn, she gets time to play, and she also gets time to do her piano lessons.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and then also for socializing, because that is also the other part of, hey, you don't have social skills, your children don't have social skills.
Yeah, they're antisocial. That's what they say.
If I introduced you to my daughter and you would have a conversation with her because of the confidence, and also as well as my son, they know how to communicate. And I also mentioned that last time.
Yes.
They can communicate. So what happens is we have communities, homeschool communities, and we also have churches that are picking up on these. Churches like Nairobi Baptist, they have classes, they have communities for homeschooled children. I'm in a WhatsApp group called the Bingwa homeschoolers family. And so what they do is they organize for field trips. You see, because we will take your children to the museum alone, it won't be fun the way we had fun. So it's not like that. We have communities, so we combine families, we come together as families and take our children for trips.
All right. Okay.
We take our children, and those ones who are doing, like in secondary schools, they do trips. Like there's a time when families went to Riara University for orientation and just getting to learn about that. So that is how we ensure that we've covered all areas of learning.
It's holistic.
Okay. Yeah, it's holistic. So we have swimming activities, we have painting activities, we have life skills. You'd be surprised to learn there are children as young as 12-year-olds who are running businesses, beading and threading and all these artistic things, and they're also pursuing music, careers in music, and they're doing very well. And you can tell we are not just based on getting A's, as I mentioned last time. White collar jobs are not enough for everyone.
True.
So you need to equip your child with the skills that they need to survive. You've seen people walking around with degrees, with masters, but they do not have jobs, they do not have other skills. So homeschooling allows you to build those skills in a child, like cooking. Can your child bake can your child bake? As in, I can bake a birthday
and happily
cake.
bake, not under pressure.
Not under pressure, yeah.
Okay.
So we are building those skills that are important, very key skills in a child. Even as you grow up as an adult, you have those life skills that allow you to interact and blend into the society.
All right.
So what we are doing is we are just preparing our children for the world.
All right, now
Yeah.
coming back to you, just hold it at preparing the children for the world. What I
Yeah.
get now with Tugi, it is already in the world. And from what I hear and what I gather is he was already working long before he even cleared his education. Tugi, I'm coming back to you and I'm asking myself, is it the homeschooling that set you apart from your peers? What I'm hearing from Elizabeth is this kind of exposure must have contributed somewhat to who you became and how you started interacting with people and your career way earlier. Is this right?
Yes. Yeah, so it really was very key. The ability to develop the things that I'm passionate about and have parents that supported me and didn't look at age. You know, one of the huge major keys about homeschooling is that, especially if it's done right, is that it takes away that you have to be a certain age to do something. And then another thing also, it's that it allows the parent to really have a lot more control and curate the environment that me as a student develops and grows. So I think it was really a miracle that I was able to go to a primary school, and that was very good, and that was I was exposed to a lot of different things that by the time I was leaving, I knew a lot of where I have strength and where I have weaknesses and where I have a lot of passion. And so now being able to have the freedom of coming out of a system and building something that allows me to grow and develop my passion to a point where, you know, I'm getting hired to play guitar from when I was 17, turned 18 on tour in Korea. And it's just been, it's not that it makes it easier, it just makes it more interesting and makes it more focused from an early age. It's I wouldn't be here if I was in a regular system. And of course, my own personal thoughts about, you know, standardized learning are, it's just that it's I can't believe that every individual is the same. We are so different, and the way that one person learns is so different from the way that somebody else learns. And the ability to figure out, the important thing about school is, the most important is to know how to learn. That's all that I believe is needed, because you delve into your different forms of learning. You don't need to cram me with so much stuff that I'll probably never use. But I would love to be able to know how to learn. That's the most important thing. And it's I don't see any other way better to do it than homeschooling, especially during those years just before teenage. Yeah. And then now if somebody wants to go to their university, if they want to become a doctor, then they already know how to go through it. If they've been studying well at home, they already know how to spend time by themselves, and, you know, get things done.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know somebody's watching and they're saying, well, this guy is a big name and he went through this system because this is something for rich, which we've talked about. And now somebody's asking, one of the concerns that came up to you, Elizabeth, is then, how is it homeschooling in the ghetto? Because I don't know how you said you can put, you can create your own curriculum, right? Yeah. People want to really understand, because there are people who want to do the homeschooling. It's fine when you say it's not for the rich, but they really want to feel practically, how can I work within my finances? I can't afford a tutor.
Yeah.
Tugi had a supervisor, who I believe was paid.
Yeah.
How is it for somebody who is not at that level, who can afford a tutor? But the Constitution says you need accredited person, or you can face criminal, charges.
Yeah. So basically, like, I wouldn't say I'm not from the ghetto. I am. I'm somewhere there. So what happens is, I had mentioned to you last time as we're finishing, coming together. Like, you don't have to do it alone.
Okay.
Most of stay-home moms, let's say stay-home moms, even at back then, the ghettos, they are well educated.
Okay.
And you'll find there's a lady who is well educated, staying at home with the children, and because they cannot afford school fees, they're in the house with the children. Yes, the government says that the education is free, but you still meet children being kicked out of school because they do not have a certain fee.
Okay.
And people are going through a hard time, and finances are hard. So what I was saying is, families can come together.
Okay.
They can come together, you and your two neighbors. You come together and start something small. So right now, everyone has access to the internet. We have these curriculums. Just go research. If you're on Facebook, you are on Google because someone was saying, well, what about us who cannot afford internet?
Yeah, Wi-Fi, for example.
Yeah, like we do not have internet. And I was telling them, if you're on your this is an inbox on Facebook, that means you can access. So there are documents, like we have KICD. The KICD provides the curricula, and it's free.
Okay.
You just need to download it and then print it out, and then set up. You can and set up something. So with neighbors, you can have like two families come together, pick someone. Then there are schools within the same ghettos that can help you come up with lesson plans or train on lesson plans. So you can make those because those documents are really important.
All right.
The curricula, the lesson plans, because if you're arrested, you need to prove that there's learning that was going on.
Absolutely.
There are portfolios you can build with your portfolios are like children's work. You put them in a file. So pick up 3 families, come together, whatever resources you have. And I mentioned that homeschooling works best with resources that are readily available.
All right.
You do not need to buy paint to learn about color red. You have red pegs, you have red clothes.
Oh, nice.
You see, you can learn shapes outside there. And as he has mentioned, children learn in different methods. So you come up and custom make your own learning.
All right.
So it's possible to do homeschooling even in the ghetto.
All right.
Pick up space, even if you'll have to rent out a different room.
Okay.
If being in the house is not working, you can rent out a different room, set it up.
But there's always a way.
There is always a way. Just come together, and when 1 or 2 people come together, ideas are more, and you can work wonders together.
All right, I want to talk to Tugi, and this is just going to be a yes or no question, or you can add a little bit to it. It's very interesting. If it was your dad or your mom doing the teaching, besides the supervisor, or did they even try at some point? How did you take that? Were you able to relate with your parents as teachers at some point?
Well, to be honest, my mom was the supervisor, and my dad was just my dad. And yeah, we were able to separate. We had to separate that. Now it's school time, and now, she has a different role, but she's also always my mom. So that was never an issue. My parents my mom actually made that sacrifice of quitting her job to homeschool and raise us during that period. Yeah.
All right.
It was
Okay, what I get here is the discipline again. You mold your child, because most people are asking after our last interview.
Yeah.
How do you get your children to look at you as a teacher, especially if you're sweet like this?
Yeah.
And you cannot discipline me when, Mommy, I'm hungry. Literally, I am hungry, and this is our house. The kitchen is right here.
Yes.
And I also had some people responding and saying, I just asked her.
Yeah.
I also had someone say, who is that teacher?
Yeah.
I had such comments. So how do you do that?
So what I did with my children, we had to set rules. And children learn best with routine. So you create routine as the parent. Yeah. If you run your house without rules and routines, it will be a chaotic home. So what we did with my children, because I homeschooled them for a whole year, is we set up rules. When it's class time, it's class time. So we set apart time for snacks, and there are days when we'd say we are not going to the kitchen for snacks. We have our snacks here, so we'd have our snacks on the table. At the table after our work, you take your snacks, we finish. And the beauty of homeschooling is the flexibility again. So there are days when you'd see your child is not okay, or they are not emotionally ready. And tell me how many times you went to school and you are not you were not feeling okay.
Run.
But you had to learn, you had to do you were made to run when you were crampy. You see, those were such uncomfortable moments for you.
Yes.
How many times were you disciplined for not understanding? Yeah, the teacher didn't get that you're not getting the concept. So when you're the parent, you help a child understand.
Okay.
So they understand that you have rules and you have a routine. So your child, there's a way, it just clicked.
Okay.
My children just knew we are in class.
All right.
And I didn't stop them from calling me mom. And they knew when
So it doesn't change to teacher in
but they knew when it's time for fun, it's
Yeah.
time for learning, and when it was time to be serious with work.
All right.
And being my children, I was able to tell when something was off.
Okay.
When I needed to change how things are going. And there are days when you would wake up and just decide, let's take a walk. You
All
know,
right, okay.
let's go fast, let's cool down. And then we also had something called the emotion corner.
All right.
And
okay.
we'd have the child, we'd have my son or daughter just say how they're feeling today.
All
So
right.
we'd start a lesson with a prayer and devotion, and then how are you feeling today?
All right, I think I know we have so much to say, but I'll cut you short there and just
Yeah.
appreciate that what you're telling us is basically related, and you know it's going hand in hand with what Tugi is telling us. And Tugi is
Yeah.
on standby. If you're watching, he's joining us via Zoom. He's already there. He's talking to us about his story, and we're just trying to compare what Elizabeth is doing with her children and what Tugi actually went through and who he is today. And of course, we're appreciating homeschooling today. Now, I know we want to wrap up, but one very major question that I'm going to ask you is about your 9-year-old now. You want to enroll her into school. The
I've already
transition.
enrolled her.
You already enrolled her.
Yeah,
Interesting. The last
yeah.
time we were speaking, you didn't mention
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
How is it going for you? The curriculum you're using at home and where you are enrolling her into. Were there certain things you were asked for? How is it? How is the process? How did it go?
Okay, the first thing when you enroll a child, like when we applied to be enrolled, of course they ask for the clearance letter from the previous school.
Yeah,
and
just
then you
precisely,
mention homeschool. They're like, there are so many gaps with homeschool. That is what people think. That's the mindset people have. There are so many gaps with homeschool. How are they going to relate with the other children?
Okay.
Luckily for us, we enrolled them in a school where you just have to go through an interview, and we were confident as we're sending our children for an interview. And after the interview, of course, I was saddened because the only thing they interviewed was the academics.
Okay.
And they performed really well.
Oh, great.
And then now the lady was asking me, watamanage aje huku, you know.
Oh,
that's
okay.
the receptionist, our wamezoea one-on-one, you know. And I was like, they'll be okay. We are confidently sending them out there with confidence. So they went to school and they are doing well.
Okay.
So the teacher is the one who was like, hey, msichana alitoka shule gani? I'm like, I homeschool her.
Okay.
Of course, I didn't start from the kindergarten. Of course, also the kindergarten they went to played a big role.
Mm-hmm.
So right now they're doing well. She's made friends already in school and she's doing perfectly fine. And we're still doing some activities, the talent-based activities. We're still following through with them.
Nice. I will also gladly do the follow-up with you.
Yes.
Now that we're walking this journey with you, and the rest of the viewers back at home want to know how the transition is. And if you're just starting, Elizabeth here will give you our social handles and how to walk the journey just like she's walking. Tugi, I'm coming back to you. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Now I'm feeling cautious about it. You want to say one or two things to people watching this morning who are still battling with, Is it just that Tugi was a lucky one, or can I really hack this? Just give one word or two. Or some people think, well, only if your kid wants to go out there and do music production or kind of talent, kind of professions, that's when you can do homeschooling. What's your word out there to people who are considering homeschooling?
Well, my final word to parents actually who are considering homeschooling, or guardians even for that matter, is that if you want to really have a connection with your child and really curate the environment that your child grows and learns in, and be very in tune with what is happening, homeschooling is for you. If you want to be able to provide your child with the skills and the ability not to get so distracted, not in a bad way, but to have their own way of knowing how to learn. right? Developing their own way of how to learn and how to move from point A to point B under your supervision. If you really like are very, very interested in the kind of environment that your child learns and what they are learning, then it's definitely for you. Actually, my sister, who follows me, is a graduate of KU. She graduated in 2018 with the early childhood degree from doing this, and now she has a very good job in a British school in the UAE as a teacher, and she's now almost about to finish her masters, if I'm not wrong. And she's now 25 or 26. I've got it right, but. Yeah, I mean, it just really helps you to dial in, and especially if you're a parent that's scared. For my mom, she had to quit her job to give us that care. She wasn't teaching us; we were still teaching ourselves, but she was there for everything else. That's the difference that you get, is that you're there for everything else that's outside of the actual learning. You're able to see where your child is emotionally, as Elizabeth said. You can decide today we're going to go for an outing, today we're going to go to the museum, or today we're going to watch a movie that's nice. You're able to really key into your child's growth, and at homeschooling there's nothing that does that better, really. So yeah, and it's just amazing. It really is amazing. And yeah, we didn't have all the money. In fact, the reason why it worked out is because it's cheap. Nowadays you can get all your curriculums online. You can download books online, as long as you know how to set your goals and what you want to do. Awesome. There's literally nothing that keep. Yeah.
Wow. So I like that you've made it very clear, and you've continued to say it's not as expensive as people make it look out here. Thank you so much, Tugi, for being part of this particular conversation, for your time, and for, of course, your humility. Please come again when we need you.
Just call me. I'll be there.
Send me your location. All right. Now, Elizabeth, you have your final words as well. And of course, just speak to somebody back at home. And I hope this time we actually covered all their concerns.
Yes. I'm encouraging every parent, every caregiver out there, whether or not you're taking your children to a regular school, you know the dreams you have for your child, and you see the potential in your children, and providing for those needs that will enable your child to become the best person they can be does not have to be expensive. Understand your child, understand the best way they can learn, and empower them in that area. If your child is musical, and you cannot afford to take them for those schools, try something else.
Okay.
There's YouTube learning, there are YouTube videos. There are affordable teachers. You do not have to go for the 2,000 per hour.
Yeah.
There's also that one who's charging, but even if it's the ghetto, who's charging 200 and they're providing the same thing. So give your child the best you can, the best way you can, and learning does not have to just be academics. If your child is not doing well with the academics, please don't punish them for that. It's not their problem.
It's not their problem.
You just need to identify the best way they can learn.
Could even be your genes.
It could be. I know. And all is not lost. There are different ways your child will learn, and there are other things you can try with your child.
Elizabeth, how do we reach you again? I know we can't exhaust this.
Yeah, you can reach me on my number on WhatsApp 0712 090684. I have a Facebook page, Everything Kids Growth and Development.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
Kids
me.
Growth and Development. Come again. And Tugi, I know you're still on standby. Please come again. And you were so much fun. You were very humble. And I'm looking forward to having you in studio, not via Zoom next time. In studio.
Yes, I'll definitely be there. I just had an accident and I'm recovering at home, but I will be in for the next one.
Thank you so much for coming, Tugi and Elizabeth.
Thank you for having us.
All right, guys, I'm going to take a short break. I come back with some goodies right here, courtesy of at Ojwang Marion's promo code with La Pair Glasses, Eye Care and Eyewear. We have some tips to safe vision. And of course, both of you for being here. I'm so glad. Thank you for your time, for your presence, and for your insight. All right, we'll be right back with the tips, and then we close the show. Good morning.